I'm Chef Say. Around the holiday season, one of the things that gets me in a festive mood is a glass of cold champagne and some fresh oysters. So we're gonna make oysters on the half shell today, and I'm gonna show you how to open them because sometimes they can be a little bit tricky. We have two different types of oysters. These are some of my favorites. These are Kumamotos. They come off the coast of Washington. They're small and meaty and have a really nice, bright, briny flavor. So these are some of my favorites. Then these are called Cushy. They come from the coast of Vancouver, BC. I've never had these before, so I'm really looking forward to trying them. Now, the opening part is a little bit tricky, so let me show you how it's done. You first want to select your oyster and set the oyster down into the palm of your hand. And now I'm going to look around the side of my oyster. I know a lot of people like to open oysters from the back, but I find sometimes that can be difficult. So instead of the back hinge here, I'm actually going to try for around the side. So I've got my oyster knife. I'm just going to pinch up towards the top, just like that. And I'm going to take the point, and I see there's a little gap right here. So I'm going to take the point of my oyster knife, and instead of shoving in and risking sliding off and going into my hand, I want to be very gentle here. So I'm going to take the tip of my knife, kind of wedge it in there, and just do a back and forth motion like that. Okay? And as I get the knife in further, I'm going to move down with my fingers and push the knife in a little bit more. Now see how my knife is most of the way in? I'm going to finish pushing the knife in the rest of the way. And now there's a muscle that's connected to the top of the shell right here. I need to disconnect that in order to get the top of the shell off. So I'm sliding the tip of my knife against the upper part of the shell to disconnect the muscle on the top. Whoop, there we go. And the top shell should just pop right off. And look at my beautiful oyster. Now, one thing I like to do to make sure that these are fresh, the first thing I'm going to do is smell it. It shouldn't smell like a dock at low tide. It should smell bright and briny like the sea on a clear day. So I smelled that. It smells really good. You'll notice that there's a little bit of liquid here. I'm going to pour that off. And then what's going to happen is the oyster is then going to release a second batch of liquid, and that's what I want to eat when I eat the oyster. Now, the next thing I'm going to do to make sure this is fresh, I'm going to take the tip of my knife and just barely touch the edge of the oyster. Now, if it shrinks back, it means it's alive, and that's a good sign. We don't want our oysters to be dead. Now, here's the tricky part. Be very gentle here. Go underneath the oyster, and you want to just detach it from the bottom of the shell, because when you're eating these, you want the oyster to just slide right out of the shell. There we go. That's perfect. So you can see how it's already starting to make a little bit more liquid. That's what we're looking for. And then I'm just going to set this on a crushed bed of ice. I like crushed ice because the oysters stand up easier that way. So I'm going to continue shucking these oysters, and then we get to try them. Fresh oysters. This is what I'm going to be having for the holidays. Happy and healthy cooking.